All right, time once again for our matinee show. This is matinee episode number 53.
Yeah.
Now, this one we're doing, let's see, we're going to do the first episode of the new Creepshow series that has premiered on Shudder.
That was good.
We'll probably actually do, each episode, like each week, except it's going to be like a little bit behind because we actually record these on Friday afternoon and they premiere the new ones on Friday night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we're going to be doing episode 1 on this one. Then we're going to do a Netflix movie, and then we're going to do a theater movie. So that's where we're going with this week's matinee show. So the first thing we're going to talk about, as I said, is the first episode of the brand new Creepshow series that premiered on Shudder on September 26th.
It was good. It lived up to the Creepshow.
I was super pumped about this.
Yeah.
I had been like seeing the trailers for it, and I was like so excited when I saw like all the people that were going to be working on it, and I really hoped that they would honor the original anthology and stuff like that, and they really, really did that, and I'm super excited to see the rest of them.
Yeah, writing was good, quality, the way it was shot was great. They even did the animated transitions and stuff. It was just like that first movie. Better, actually.
Yeah, it's better. Like, you know what I mean? It really is in the same spirit as the original Creepshow movie.
Yeah.
The showrunner is obviously Greg Nicotero, which means you're going to get, not only because he, work came up under Tom Savini, like back in the 80s and shit like that, way before even he got famous with The Walking Dead and everything, but he worked with Romero, he worked on all these things, and he's a big practical effects guy, which I think is really going to be a really cool thing. And so he did actually design the creep in this one that's in like the wraparound segments. And, unlike Creepshow 2 in the movie where it was like animated, which I didn't really like all that much, if you go back and look at our review of Creepshow 2, which was all right, but, obviously not as good as the first one. But this one, they went back to what the original Creep looked like in the original Creepshow movie. And they've also got a really beautiful, just the whole comic book transitions. Like, it has like animated pages, like, flipping over, and like, little things that say like, 2 weeks later and things like that. Just like out of the comic books and just like the original movie.
Yeah, the first story in it was kind of like, reminded me of the one that Stephen King was in with the mold that took over him.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill.
Yeah, this is another one about a slime mold that's just eating everything up. And it takes over the guy, and he makes him a drunk, kind of. Or he was I don't really know.
He was a drunk before.
He was a drunk before, but the fungus got on him and turned him into some gray slime. And then he started to divide, and he was eating all the cats, and he started eating all the children. And he started to divide, kind of like... and the division started to divide, so it was kind of like something out of The Thing. It was going to take over the Earth in how long?
6 days.
6 days. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Which was just So what they're going to do, I guess I'm led to understand that every single, I think there's just going to be 6 episodes of Creepshow in the first season, but they're each going to have 2 stories.
Yeah, second story is about a little girl who's playing with her dollhouse, and she sees a little decapitated head of a doll in there. It's a spooky looking head. And then every time she looks in, she didn't see the dolls move, but every time she looks in, something's different happened. Like they're running from the doll, running from the head, or the head's coming at them, and they start getting killed. And then the cop shows up. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I don't want to spoil them.
Yeah, we're not going to spoil them. But I will say so. Okay, so the first story that's in it is based on Stephen King's short story Gray Matter, which was actually first published in Cavalier magazine, because he used to get back in the old days he used to get his
porn magazine
get him in porn magazines and stuff. So it was actually first published in 1973, and then later it was published in this anthology right here. Mine's very beat up, as you can see, Night Shift, which came out in 1978. So it's based on this story Gray Matter. It's very similar to the source material, which I actually reread before we did this, because it's a very short story. It's only like 4 or 5 pages. I think the only things they changed were they made the dad a little bit more sympathetic in the Creepshow version. They also made it a hurricane instead of a snowstorm. Just various things like that. You will note that there, Stephen King fans will probably squee with delight, because there are really a lot of Easter eggs in this. I mean, that's not even saying that in the opening credits of the show, there's actually a callback to the crate from the first Creepshow movie. And in the first segment of this, if you go through, there's like all these little missing posters, you know what I mean? Like on this thing in the store. And there's like missing Church the cat, missing Cujo the dog.
Yeah.
The two girls that are missing in the thing are the Grady twins. Shit like that. And then when Timmy, who is like the boy that's supposed to be coming to the store to like get his dad's beer in the middle of the storm, he comes in wearing a yellow raincoat, just like Georgie and It. There's like shit about like weird shit going on in the sewers, which actually comes right from the story, but that's also kind of an offhand reference to It. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff like to spot in it. I really did like this story. Like Adrienne Barbeau is in it, which is a nice callback to the first one.
Yeah, she's still looking pretty good for her age.
She is like the owner of the store that like talks to Timmy, and he's like telling her about what's been happening with his dad.
Did not co-star her boobs though.
Yeah, no, we didn't get to see her boobs in this
film. I guess she's beyond that now.
Yeah, she's like, no more boobs. That's I'm too old for that shit.
Right.
But yeah, so you get to see, and there's also like some other, kind of famous people in this, like Tobin Bell, who obviously plays Jigsaw in the Jigsaw movies, or in the Saw movies rather. The other actor that's in this, that's like one of the other guys. What the hell is his name? Giancarlo Esposito. He's actually probably best known nowadays for being in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, but he was also in Maximum Overdrive, so there's another little Stephen King callback for you there. So this story, it's more like a monster movie type story. It's very simple. They're only about 15-20 minutes long, like each segment.
It was a good kickoff to the new series.
Oh, definitely.
That was the story to show.
Yeah.
Because it's not a complicated story, it's just a scary monster.
Yeah, basically it's just this kid comes and he says, it's my dad who was a drunk. I mean, obviously you could read it, and I think Stephen King wrote it. I mean, it's pretty clear if you read the story as well that it's kind of like a metaphor for alcoholism, like a lot of his stories were, where it's like alcohol is just like slowly turning this kid's dad into a monster.
The story itself is a lot like the one from the first Creepshow movie that Stephen King and the damn green moss everywhere from outer space. Very much like that, but just is taken to new levels, and it looks a lot better.
Yeah, and like I said, I think 99% of the effects in this are practical effects, as far as I'm aware, because as I said, it's it's Greg Nicotero and his special effects team working on it.
It's a lot more sinister, almost like something out of Aliens.
Yeah, and the monsters looks really good, and the special effects are very gooey and like gross and shit like that.
I'd like to see it again, actually.
Yeah, I actually watched it 2 times for this review because I wanted to make sure. So that was the first story. Now the second one is called The House of the Head, and it was based on a short story by Josh Mallerman, who also wrote Bird Box, and it was directed by John Harrison, who directed Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, which a lot of people consider the third Creepshow, just because the real movie called Creepshow 3 is so terrible, because it didn't have anything really to do with the other two.
This is living up to the Creepshow name, though.
It definitely is. I said, the whole look of it. Now, I have to say, of the 2 stories, I didn't realize, but the little girl that plays Evie in the second segment, that's the little girl that plays Judith on The Walking Dead. I was like, oh, I thought she looked familiar. Yeah. But this one is a lot less gory, but I actually liked this one better, just because, her and nothing. It's kind of like the whole thing takes place inside a dollhouse, which gives it a slightly bit of a Hereditary type of thing, because they had that going on. But just the fact that you don't see all the stuff that happens in her house, and I thought it was adorable that the little family that she has living in this dollhouse, she calls them the Smiths, because that's their name. Right. You know what I mean? And I'm like, that's so kid-like. And so this little zombie head that appears in the house, and it's every time she walks away from the dollhouse, shit moves around. You never see it moving.
Yeah. She just looks back in.
She just looks back in, and shit has changed.
It's a different tableau of something that's happening, and you don't see it in isn't that the right word? Tableau. Yeah. Yeah. You're standing there. Yeah. And you don't see it in action. You see it in freeze frame. It's a cool touch.
And I like that. Because it really kind of ramped up the suspense, because you didn't see anything going on in there, but it's you knew that something was going to be different, and you had to see it. And then she's trying to help the Smiths.
She's trying to help. She buys a policeman.
She buys a policeman, and then there's
buys a priest.
Well, no, it's not a priest.
That's he buys Indian shaman.
It was a Native American, and I said, oh, please make it old Chief Woodenhead from Creepshow 2, and it was. Yeah. And I was like super excited. Yeah, also, and
she wanted a priest originally, but they didn't have.
They didn't have one in the store.
And the guy goes, "Well, if you want a holy man, why don't you just take him?" And it was
He's like, "We have some Native Americans. They're very spiritual people." He said,
very, very spiritual people.
Which I thought was very funny. It was kind of like a little joke.
Yeah.
But, so it was old Chief Woodenhead. There's also, and I haven't seen a lot of reviewers mention this, and maybe I'm the only person that's, like, crazy enough that it noticed, but inside Evie's dollhouse was a little bitty, that little green marble ashtray from the first movie.
Yeah, that's right.
It was, remember, in Father's Day, which was the first one in the first movie.
Bunch of little callbacks and Easter eggs and shit.
Which was the first one in the first movie. That was what, Bedelia had bashed in her father's head with.
Right.
And then that ashtray appeared in every subsequent segment of Creepshow.
Yeah.
But without them really calling attention to it. It was just kind of like an Easter egg in that. So now this is like an Easter egg calling back to that Easter egg. So it's like a meta Easter egg. But it's like a little bitty one, and it's just like in there for a couple of seconds. And I was like, hey, there's that ashtray. You know what I mean?
This is all Shudder exclusive. We called it, man, when we first started getting that Shudder subscription.
Yeah.
I had a good feeling about Shudder.
Yeah.
And now they're becoming kind of like a major player. And this series right here and hit it out of the park. This is going to be a great series.
I feel like it is too.
For
I'm
$5
really
a
looking
month.
forward.
For $5 a month, you can't beat Shudder.
You really can't. It's like they have so much good shit on there.
They're putting good stuff up, classic stuff.
And like I said, now they've started to do their own thing. You can tell that this is made like on kind of a small budget, but it's like, look at all the fucking talent they got in this. Yeah. And actually, they're going to do, we're just going to watch the series as it comes out. I kind of like that they didn't dump the whole series on there at once. They're doing it weekly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So people will be discussing it one episode at a time, which I think is kind of neat.
Yeah.
But I feel like some of the upcoming stuff, like they're going to do like a Joe Hill story. They're going to do like Joe Lansdale. Tom Savini is going to direct one and shit like that. So I feel like this is I have a really good feeling about.
I like it a lot better than Netflix. Just saying. It has that, they understand the 80s retro vibe. They're going with it. It would even be better if Stranger Things was done by Shudder. That would just fit right into what Shudder does.
That's true.
That would fit right into their little world. But, Netflix has it.
Yeah.
It's a good series, too,
And
we have Netflix. It's just,
we have both. Netflix is good for, like, general stuff.
Things, right.
They have, like, a lot of good, like, serial killer documentaries. They have, like, some series and comedies and stuff like that. But, if you're into horror and stuff like that, I mean...
Especially retro horror, too,
yeah, because they have a lot of, like, older...
classic shit.
Like, a lot of... and, like, weirder shit that you don't see otherwise. Yeah. Like, they have, like, a lot of weird cult classics that you wouldn't necessarily think of.
And they bring it back. They're bringing it back in basically Blu-ray quality.
Yeah.
And if not DVD quality, well, in the best quality they can.
Yeah.
Because some of that stuff is, on terrible film stock from the 70s.
Yeah.
But even the Hammer horror films look fucking good.
I was going to say, they just recently added, like, 3 a little bit lesser-known Hammer movies, and I definitely think we need to review one of those.
Me and Jenny just, all the Victorian boob outfits. Fucking, they knew what they were doing. The British fucking knew what they were doing there.
Well, they're very tit-centric. They love that.
Boob porn, man. Boob porn. You got to be a hottie with fucking boobs to be in a Hammer film.
And every single scene is just going to be like, hey, bend
down
over.
blouse, up blouse, everything. They just...
Fantastic.
They know exactly what they're doing.
But yeah, so seriously... If you don't have Shudder, you should probably get it because this series is totally worth it. And they have like a bunch of other good shit on there too. But like I said, this was only the first, episode. I actually liked The House of the Head probably a little bit better than Gray Matter, but they're very different, which I think is kind of cool because I think they're kind of showing that, like, look at all the different styles of horror we're going to do. Like, it's kind of playing up the diversity of storytelling that they're going to do because the two stories, it's like a gooey monster thing and then like a more sedate kind of psychological horror type of thing. So I thought that was kind of cool that they had just these two drastically different styles, and I kind of hope they keep that up because I think that's one of the strengths of the horror genre as a whole is like you can do so much with it.
Yeah.
And I think it's good that they are kind of highlighting that. So yeah, definitely check out the new Creepshow series. Like I said, we're recording this on Friday, and I think a new one will be up later tonight, so we'll probably be watching that. We'll probably review that on next Sunday's show too on Matinee 54. Okay, and the second movie we're going to talk about was actually a 2019 movie that appeared on Netflix very recently. It is called Head Count. Now, this one, it is the directorial debut of a woman named Elle Callahan. She actually has worked in the industry for a very long time. She was like a production designer, production assistant on someone like some Marvel movies like Ant-Man and Avengers, Age of Ultron, I think she worked on. Wonder Woman she worked on, stuff like that. But this is her directorial debut. Now, it's set in Joshua Tree, like out in the desert and stuff, and it's kind of about these two brothers, one of whom is named Evan and one of whom is named Peyton. Now, Evan goes to visit his brother Peyton, who lives in the trailer out in the desert. He's kind of like a hippie-ish, straight-edge type of dude, so not really much fun. So they go hiking. There's kind of like some tension between them that they don't... It's left kind of ambiguous as to like kind of what happened. I guess their parents are dead and like Peyton was kind of like a father figure to the younger brother and stuff. But there's some kind of undisclosed like kind of shit in their past and they're trying to like work it out. So they go on a hike one day and it turns out that they come across this large group of people. I think it's like 9 or 10 other people that are like students. And they've also been out hiking in Joshua Tree, and they're out like drinking and smoking pot and everything like that. And Evan decides, because one of the girls is particularly attractive and single, that he would rather hang out with them, so he kind of ditches his brother. Now, as it happens, these 9 or 10 people have rented this house, and they're staying there for like the weekend or a week or whatever. And their whole thing is, they go back to the house, they're doing like tequila shots, they have all kind of drugs, they have like, so it's like the party house. Now, another thing they do too is after all the drinking and drugs is they're all sitting around outside of the campfire and stuff, and they're telling each other scary stories and stuff like you do. So Evan decides that, or they tell Evan it's his turn to tell one, and he can't think of one, so they tell him to go to this website called anonymousnightmares.com, which is kind of like a creepypasta type of thing. And they said, just pick one at random and read it. So it turns out that the one he reads is kind of like this weird poem about a thing called a hisji, or a hisji. And it turns out that it's sort of, a demon summoning
like a
kind of spell.
Kind of
now,
demon, right?
This movie, I will say, it's not a slasher, it's not gory, it's not anything. The movie it strongly reminded me of was It Follows. So if you really like that movie, you will probably, this was not as good as that, but it definitely like reminded me of that, because the way it kind of goes is that it's very, very subtle, and like a lot of the creepy shit is happening like in the background or like in the fringes of things, and it's not like really, focused in on, so you have to kind of be paying attention to all the shit that's going on in the background to like see what's happening. Because it takes a while to like for you to realize that what the hisji does is that the thing in the rhyme about it's like it's something you've already seen or something like that. So basically it takes over another person and makes like a copy of them. Yeah. So there's all this like creepy shit where they'll be in the house and there's like somebody, and then they'll walk into the room, and then you look back and they're still in that room. So there's like 2 of them, and Evan is like freaking out because he's not really sure, because he doesn't really know these people. And he makes a joke like early on about like how he can't really tell one from the other. He couldn't like remember like how many of them there were. So it takes a while for him to like realize that some of these people are not who they seem to be. And the thing about the hisji too is I guess it like when it takes people over, it makes them like suicidal. It's like some kind of, like I said, it's like a demonic curse type of thing. I actually really liked this movie. Like I said, if it's very much like It Follows. It reminded me a little bit of a movie called Coherence. So you should check that out, because that's really good too, in the sense that it's done like as a really low budget, and it plays a lot with kind of doppelganger type of imagery and like, double, like that kind of unsettling, creepy thing. And the way it reminds me of It Follows is where, because, in It Follows, the thing that was coming after you like looked like a person, but you never knew who it was, but you were the only one who could see it. But it was always like happening in the background. So this is very much like that. Like I said, I don't think it's successful as It Follows or Coherence, but I definitely think it's, I think that she's going to be a director to watch, because this is actually really, really good for a first-time director. As I said, if you're into like, monster movies or anything like that, it is very subtle. It's more of a psychological kind of drama, and it takes a while. And like I said, you really have to be paying attention to like the shit that's going on in the background. The only like quibble I would give is that not a lot of characterization because the cast is so large. They can't really focus a lot on any of the characters, so a lot of the stuff is kind of left. But in a way, that kind of works in its favor because, like I said, the Evan character doesn't know any of these people either, and he says, "Oh, I can't tell one from the other," and like. So maybe like it kind of puts the audience in the same situation as him. Yeah. Like, you can't tell one person from the other. The only other quibble is that I kind of wish they hadn't shown the history at all. Because they did kind of show it briefly at the end. And I kind of wish they had kind of not done that because I think it's better like left ambiguous and you didn't really know what it looked like because it just kept taking over other people's shift forms.
It wasn't my kind of movie, really.
Yeah, I think he kind of got bored with it.
Yeah, it didn't catch my attention, and it didn't keep it. It was, I don't, this movie really, I'm not the target audience, too. You know what I mean? I think mostly younger people would really be into this. It's like hearing a bunch of teenagers just talk about their shit, and young people talk about their shit, and I don't really care about it. It didn't really, nothing about the movie really jumped out and grabbed me early on to make me want to continue watching it. So my mind started to wander.
Yeah.
And then as nothing really started, nothing really started to happen for me, you know what I mean? I just forgot that I was watching the movie.
Yeah.
That's how that shit went.
And like I said,
it's not a bad movie. It's just it's just not the kind of monster movie I'd watch.
Well, and like I said, this is definitely the kind of thing where you definitely have to pay attention. And and honestly, I probably would want to watch it a second time because I'm sure there's a lot of shit because I think a lot of shit happened earlier that you kind of miss if you're not really paying attention because like I said, a lot of shit's going on in the background, and it's very subtly kind of done, which I like, but
she was working with a limited budget, so there wasn't much she could do, so she had to tailor a story around what she had.
Yeah.
So it's good. Technically, it was good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
In a way, it reminded me a lot of Coherence, which was basically just shot in one house, which was actually the director's house. He shot it in his own house with a bunch of improvised actors, which just goes to show that if you have a good concept, you don't need a lot of money. You only need one concept, one location, and you can like make a really compelling narrative out of it.
Wasn't quite enough action. I mean, you know what I mean?
It's a slow burn.
Look at Mandy. Mandy wasn't a high quality, wasn't a big budget movie, but man, that fucker was exciting.
Yeah. Plus the visuals of that were just like so crazy that
but that's a possibility. So a movie like this has to compete against with something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And she can. It's just that she didn't in this.
Well, like I said, this is her first time out, and I thought this was actually a really good movie first time out. Like I said, it's not as good as It Follows, even though it reminded me very strongly of that. But I'm kind of like, I want to see what she does in the future because I like these kind of movies.
Yeah, it was the quality's good. It's just that if you don't have any money, this story better be fucking wild.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's my advice.
Yeah.
And she could do it. Just keep at it.
Yeah.
Most directors, don't really knock it out of the park for the first few movies,
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like everything else, it's a learning curve.
It's kind of a learning curve. But watch it. If you're into slow burn kind of movies, it's that.
Yeah, you probably really dig. If like I said, if you're willing to kind of give it your full attention, because there's a lot of shit going on.
A lot of little details
in the fringes and little.
I'm kind of like a lazy watcher.
Yeah, he's usually like doing other shit at the same time.
Doing other shit. If it doesn't really grab my attention, I'm back on that tablet.
Yeah.
I got other shit to do. It's got to be something that just takes over.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wait a minute, hold on, what? Really? Oh, shit, where's this going?
Oh, shit.
So that's,
Yeah.
But that's the standard now. All movies, if you're not in theater, you're going to be competing against the real world.
Yeah.
And, we go to the AMC theater all the time and watch boring-ass movies. We stopped going all the time. We really only see one a week now.
Well, because we decided to, like, stop forcing ourselves to watch stuff that we weren't really interested in. I'm not saying that those aren't good movies. I'm just saying that they're not
We're not interested in
that I'm not really interested in.
I want to see dog movies and don't want to see, all the children's movies.
That's what I mean. I don't, I like some animated movies, but I don't want to see, like, religious-ass movies.
You get sick of it real quick.
It's like I don't want to see stuff like aimed at tweens or anything like that. You know what I mean? I got better things to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, seriously, if you're into like subtle, slow burn horror, if you liked It Follows, then probably you should check this out. It is on Netflix right now. All right, and the third movie we're going to talk about, we've been looking forward to this one for a really long time. This one's Joker.
Yeah, it's going to be an easy one. Go ahead and see it. Go see it. Excellent movie.
This honestly was amazing. I think, you know what? If Joaquin Phoenix doesn't get an Oscar for this, then, I mean, for sure he's going to get nominated. He's got to. I mean,
acted his ass off.
His performance in this was just like, and he was in every scene pretty much, right? I mean, that I can remember.
It's a weird movie because it's not really a comic book movie as you would know it. It feels like a gritty New York crime movie in a way.
It's very Scorsese.
From the 70s, yeah.
Very Taxi Driver, very King of Comedy, very Mean Streets.
Yeah. It's weird. And you don't know what's real in this movie. So the movie's being seen through the eyes of a narrator. You can't really trust his grip on reality.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of shit that happens, and it has all the elements of the Joker that you would know from the Batman mythos, but a slightly different take on it. And you just don't know if everything that happens in this movie is true or not, because this is a lunatic.
Yeah. Well,
this is a lunatic that you're dealing with.
In a way, I kind of love that they did that because, yes, they used some elements from the 1988 graphic novel, The Killing Joke, particularly the part where Joker says that he prefers his past to be multiple choice.
Yeah.
So I think they kind of took that and ran with it. And it's like, the thing about it is that there are some hints in it that things didn't happen the way, because like I said, you're seeing everything essentially through the character of Arthur Fleck.
Yeah.
Played by Joaquin Phoenix. So you don't know, and he's clearly mentally unstable.
Right. You can't trust his version.
Right. And there are some clearly, and early in the movie, there's clearly some shit that is imagined, and they show that he's imagining it, like that it happened like that. So you actually don't know how much of the movie actually happened, or how much of it is real, how much of it was his perception of an event, or did he just imagine the entire event?
And then at the end, you find out there were whole elements of the story that weren't true.
Right.
And then you see certain things that happen, and they kind of happen in a way that's very improbable. So after you find out that there was an element of untruth in all this, or I guess you could say hallucination, you can look back on it and go, did it really happen that way, or is that just the way he remembered it? For instance, he goes on a talk show and talks for a long time on this damn talk show. And it's a very odd subject matter that they're talking on. And in reality, you couldn't go on that long without being kicked off the show.
Yeah.
So did it really go down that way, or did he just imagine that it went down that way? A bunch of weird shit happens.
Well, the thing that I think is so brilliant about this movie is that not only does it make you question the reality because it's putting you in the shoes of someone with a horrible mental illness, it's also kind of like, it's making you sympathize with him because, a lot of bad shit happens to him, so you can understand, like, why he acts the way he does, like, why he cracks and why he acts out the way he does, but it doesn't glorify it, it doesn't justify it, it doesn't say, that's what you should do.
Yeah.
Because he's a villain, but it's humanizing him in a way that you can relate to him while not condoning his actions. And I think it's a fine line to walk, but I think they really, really did that very well.
And there's certain aspects of, like, Batman lore that it shows you things that have happened in other movies, but they're different.
Yeah.
For instance, everybody knows, if you even watch the old Batman, that Joker shoots down and kills Bruce Wayne's parents when he's a kid. They have a scene that's like that in this movie. But it's not Joker that shot the parents down. It's somebody dressed up like the Joker.
Yeah.
During a riot. But you have to ask yourself, what's the chances that that's just Joker hallucinating that somebody else did it?
Right. Like I said, you can't trust anything.
You can't trust it, yeah. So everything is up for grabs. And then the way the movie ends, it ends with a scene that makes you kind of question the reality of the whole damn movie.
But like I said,
the whole movie might be an alternate explanation for what how Joker was created.
Yeah.
It's very meta.
That's what I think is so brilliant. But it could
meta.
be read. There's so much like ambiguity. There's like little clues and little hints left of this, that, and the other thing. But it's like it could go either way. And I like that they didn't resolve some things.
Yeah,
in it. They left it open to interpretation.
And in this movie, Joker has an entirely different perspective of Bruce Wayne's dad. What was that big Wayne? What's his
Thomas Wayne.
Thomas Wayne. That's right. He has a totally different viewpoint or a version of Thomas Wayne. And you have to ask yourself, is that the way Thomas Wayne really is? Or is that just the way Joker
is that
thinks
just the way
he
he's perceiving him?
Yeah. So you just don't know. And it's not done in any kind of corny way, you know what I mean?
This is not corny at all.
Not corny at all. This is like very almost fucking like it's a masterpiece. It's like something Kubrick would make.
That's what I mean. And like I said, a lot of people have, compared this to, and obviously Todd Phillips, the director, who previous to this only did comedies. He did like the Hangover movies and Old School and stuff. But he is clearly a huge Scorsese fan, and he has come out right and, said that Taxi Driver was a big influence. The King of Comedy was a big influence, and Robert De Niro is in this, which is kind of a callback to that. There are even like some direct callbacks to Taxi Driver, like the whole gun to the head gesture, like some of the shots. I don't think it's like a ripoff. It's kind of an homage, sure. And it's in a similar kind of vein, but it's just kind of this thing of where you're taking this really damaged character and are just kind of like putting you inside of its head. It's not a fun movie at all. It's like, you know what I mean? But it's a really compelling movie. And to be honest, there were some scenes in it where, particularly the scene with Joker and the his coworker and the little person, like in the apartment. I'm not going to spoil it or anything, but that scene was like super, super tense because Arthur Fleck as a character is so unbalanced that you never know exactly what he's going to do in any given situation. So you're just like on edge, like through the whole thing, because you don't know how he's going to react to different stimuli.
And you don't know what's true. Like, for instance, the Heath Ledger Joker.
Yeah.
In that Dark Knight movie, he would tell different stories of how his face got that way.
Yeah.
Each story was totally different.
Yeah.
The way you take it in that movie is that he's lying.
Yeah.
But there's another way to look at it. Maybe Joker himself, had 3 or 4 different memories of how that happened.
Right.
All of them false, but equally true to him.
Yeah.
And imagine that Joker, or this Joker is telling you his story by directing this movie. That's probably a good way to look.
That's kind of the vibe I got from it, actually.
Right.
Like, after I left and, thought about it.
You got a guy who's trying to tell you his story through his movie, all right, of the history of the Joker, and he doesn't know it's true. There's a bunch of shit that could be true, maybe not, you don't know. It could be this, or it could be that, or it could be both, or neither, because it seems... You don't realize it at the time that you're watching the movie, but as it unfolds, you realize that there's a lot of inconsistencies in this tale.
Well, this is the quintessential unreliable narrator.
Exactly.
Maybe. Quintessential.
Exactly.
I mean, because you have, and like you said, he might be so mentally ill that he doesn't know.
Right. Or he has 2 or 3 different versions.
Right.
Of, say, for instance, who his dad was, or who or what his child or what his child upbringing was like. There may be 3 or 4 different versions of that.
Exactly. That's
why kind of like the Heath Ledger Joker had 3 or 4 different versions of how his face got that way.
Yeah.
He may not have been lying. He just had 4 different ways.
Yeah.
You said that in the comic book Killing Joke, that Joker said that his history or his past was multiple choice.
He would prefer it to be multiple choice, yes.
And that's what this is. This movie is multiple choice.
Yeah. Like I said, a lot of the things are left ambiguous. Yeah. And I liked that about it. I think that was probably its greatest strength.
Because these conundrums and these, what do you call it? It's almost kind of like a Mobius strip. This is what's driving Joker crazy.
Yeah.
That, that all these multiple choice things, what it could be.
Yeah.
So he's fucked up.
And in a way, too, it's like, I know there was kind of like some people talking about, like, you know, the violence in this and everything like that.
It's not that violent, really.
Well, no, but it's the thing about it is, like, there's not a lot of violence in it, but the violence that's in it and the way it's portrayed is actually very impactful and disturbing.
Makes you feel it's real.
In a way that, like, makes you, like, be like, ugh, you know what I mean? And in a way, the whole theme of the movie, I thought, was that, you know, people are going through their own shit, and so everyone should be civil to everyone else, because you never know what someone else is going through. And if you're a shit to that person one day, it might come back to bite you in the ass. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it seemed like there was a lot of that going on too. So I kind of got more of a vibe of, you know, quit being shitty to people because you don't know what shit they're going through. Yeah. But as you said, there's also kind of a larger theme too of, like, Joker's history and how he perceives it. Yeah. If this is how it actually happened, you know, and things like that.
You come out of the movie and you don't know what Joker's life was really like. You don't know what Wayne was really like. You don't, and neither does the Joker.
Yeah, because it's all through his
fucked up
perception, right. And he is clearly a very mentally ill person.
Yeah, and what makes it great is that it's not done in some kind of corny way, using weird special effects or flashbacks or dream sequences. No, you can't tell what is real and what isn't. It's all presented as reality.
Yeah, this is a very grounded movie. I wouldn't even, like, yes, it's about a quote-unquote comic book character, but this is not like a comic book movie at all. There's no special effects. There's nothing like that. It's basically like a character study. I have to say, like, the cinematography of, like, Gotham City, which was obviously mostly filmed in New York and Jersey City and Newark and stuff, looks great. Like, it's almost like a character on its own, much like in Taxi Driver.
If you keep in mind when you're watching the movie, just pretend that the director and the writer of this story itself is the Joker. You can't. Then it starts to make a lot more sense.
Yeah. I have to say, too, that, like I said,
it makes sense. It's just that it makes even more sense on different dimensions. Yeah. If you realize that you're being told a story by an insane narrator.
Yeah. I have to say, too, that, you know, I think I already said that, like, Joaquin Phoenix should for real get an Oscar for this because he's just, like, amazing. But also, one of the things, he lost 50 pounds for this. Damn. And you can really see it, like, when it's, like, you can see his spine and his shoulder blades sticking out and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's a weird looking dude, man. He's got weird looking shoulders.
The physicality, well, that's why, because he lost so much weight for this. Yeah. The physicality of his role, like, you can even see, like, not only in his facial expressions, so, like, but the way his body moves, the way he walks and stuff like that, as the story goes on and Arthur Fleck becomes the Joker, in the sense that he's finding his power, I guess, or finding his confidence.
If that's what you want to call it.
Yeah. If that's what you want to call it, like, in a fucked up way, that's what he's doing. Like, he's kind of finding his calling or owning his crazy, I guess, is the way I put it yesterday. But it just, the way his whole movements change is really amazing to watch.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot of difference, though, between the Joker in this movie and other Jokers.
Yeah, this is for sure different take on it.
Yeah, I mean, this Joker is the origin story Joker. He's not physically imposing. He's not intimidating, really, but he's destructive.
Yeah.
Because people are getting killed.
Disturbed, yeah.
Yeah, but he's not like your cartoon supervillain at this point.
No.
And he's not this kind of like Sigma male kind of, supervillain with henchmen and, expertise in making bombs and having military skills. He's not like that. Not yet, at least.
He's just like a regular guy with real problems.
A real broken loser who's just started to fuck shit up. And it's just by the nature of just how fucked up he is that people get fucked up. Not really a winner. He's pretty much a loser at this point, but he did become the Joker.
But like I said, that's a very realistic...
Yeah.
Because,
that's the way the Joker would really be.
That's what I mean. Well, it's like, in real life, like, sometimes people, if you already got, like, mental problems and stuff, and you just keep getting shit on and shit on and shit on by life, I mean, eventually that person's going to crack. And I think that's kind of what this was exploring.
I would love to see a sequel to this movie.
I know. I don't know if they're going to do one, but it's like, it would be awesome if
they
did.
And the way I would do it is later, okay? The Joker is older, and Batman is now old enough to fight against him. and you're experiencing Batman through the eyes of the Joker.
Yeah.
And experiencing
that'd be good, actually.
Experiencing Batman through the eyes of the Joker, he would see the fucking Batman as a dick, really.
Yeah.
As a jock boy dick who was picking on him.
Yeah.
And fucking who owed him some shit.
Yeah.
And that I'd like to see Batman. You would see Batman in a very poor light.
Well, yeah, because that's how Joker would see it.
Because that's how Joker would see it.
Because the thing about it, and this I think like just stands in film as a whole, the best villains, the most compelling villains, are villains that are heroes in their own perception.
Yeah, Joker thinks he's a fucking good guy. He thinks he's nice.
Right. And he's clearly not. Like, from our point of view, he's a villain.
And anybody associated with the Waynes are assholes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And fucking that's the next Joker movie I want to see.
Yeah,
I want to see Batman as a fucking dick.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be funny.
Yeah.
I would actually really like this.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's different than any other comic book movie. It's definitely much more like a gritty 70s character study, like a psychological study of a broken man and how that can kind of turn into various things. And like I said, it also has this whole meta angle of like unreliable narrator. You're not really sure like what's real and what's not, because there's definitely things that happen in there that later on you find out aren't real. I also want to point out the fucking amazing score to this movie. The music choices are great.
The score is awesome.
But the score of this,
shit would happen and boom,
incredible.
Wow, yeah.
And I looked up I was like, who did the score for this? She's an Icelandic musician, and I can't pronounce her name. It's Hildur Gudnadottir. I guess I'm sure I butchered that really bad. But she's like a musician. She's a classical cellist. Has also worked with Robin Gristle, so I thought that was kind of awesome. But yeah, she did the score for this, and it is amazing. And also like a lot of the music choices they made were amazing. Also, they used like a lot of like old timey. The movie's set in 1981 actually.
Yeah.
But they used like a lot of really old timey songs, like fucking Bing Crosby and that kind of stuff, which I thought worked really well. And also there was that whole the whole thing with the talk show, that Robert De Niro. It's very much like Johnny Carson. So this is very much like that late 70s, early 80s like talk show circuit.
Another thing is that the movie kind of starts off kind of slow.
It does.
I'm going like, this is kind of boring. I mean, this is cool, but it's kind of boring. But it builds up pretty quickly. I mean, it just shows how this guy's going to lose his fucking mind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a great movie. There's controversy about it on Rotten Tomatoes, and they're talking about all this incel stuff. I didn't see any hint of any of this incel bullshit. You know what I mean? It's a great movie. I thought it was a masterpiece of what it is. It's like a Scorsese film.
Yeah.
It's up there with like a Kubrick film. It's up there with The Shining and everything. It's just a good fucking movie.
Yeah.
It's just, and there's something weird about it. Nowadays, this movie stands out as being something kind of unusual. But back in the day, this would have been just kind of a normal movie.
Well, yeah, they made, like I said, early 70s, there was a lot of movies.
A lot of this, yeah.
Made, where there was, like, anti-heroes or where there were, like, psychological studies of, like, bad people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even, like, a lot of the mob movies and stuff like that. I mean, a lot of those characters were terrible, but you watch them because they were compelling.
Right, and now that they're kind of bringing that back, it's just like a breath of fresh air, really. Like,
it is, yeah. Because the thing about it is that you can enjoy watching a movie about a terrible person.
Yeah.
But not, and even sympathize with that person and see them as a human being, but not condone what that person is doing.
Yeah,
no one condones what Joker is doing.
They got a lot of people, in the corporate media, they try to pass judgment on a movie as if it's some kind of a fucking moral statement. That's not what these movies are about. Movies are kind of educational in a way. They're showing you stuff. You go through an experience so you can learn certain aspects to reality through these things. It's art.
Yeah.
It's art, you know what I mean?
And like I said, if anything...
you don't want to censor art.
Yeah, and if anything, one, yes, this movie has violent, a few violent scenes in it, but I don't think that anyone, at least not anyone in their right mind, would think that it was admirable. And to me, like, I thought the violent scenes, for being, like, spaced out, I thought they were really well done because they were really compelling and, like, really upsetting and, like, disturbing as they should be.
If you actually look at it, it's not that violent a movie.
It's really not, like I said, but the fact that they spaced it out, like I said, I think that's better because it made it, when it happened, it had a lot more impact.
I mean, Saving Private Ryan was a lot more violent. one. A lot of
obviously
thousands of people dying in that one. And stuff,
they're just getting fucking
dudes
their
getting machine
legs
gunned
blown off and shit like that.
So it's nothing.
But, and like I said too, I feel like one of the central things about this movie was that yes, Arthur Fleck's character, who would later become Joker, yes, he did terrible things. The movie wasn't asking you to like say, oh, isn't it cool that like he killed this person, that person. It wasn't saying that. It was saying, look what happens to a damaged person when they keep getting shit on.
In terms of violence, it actually put it up there, maybe like Goodfellas.
Yeah,
about like that.
It was very similar. Like I said, it was very similar to
a more effective audio effects and shit. You know what I mean?
I was thinking that too.
Yeah, but because it's a different era. You can do a lot more. But if you weren't grossed out by Goodfellas, then this wouldn't bother you.
Yeah, and I'm not saying so much. I don't say violence is like like gore, because obviously I've seen like super gory movies. This is not gory or anything like that. They're just talking about violence in the sense of like shooting
people getting shot, people getting stabbed. But like I said, it's about like Goodfellas.
Yeah, it's no worse than that. Yeah. But like I said, I think that the scenes being spaced out and being framed the way they were framed actually made them really effective.
Yeah.
In the sense that it made you like. Because, like I said, you were nervous because his character was so...
You could kind of feel it coming.
Yeah, that he was so crazy and you weren't exactly sure what was going to happen because he was so, like, unbalanced. So it really kind of kept you on the edge of your seat all the time.
Certain people he let go. But the thing is that after you get done with the movie, you're not sure whether or not you can believe whether or not he let certain people go when he did.
Yeah, like I said, it kind of makes you... And this is definitely one that...
Makes you question this whole story when it's over. You're like...
This is definitely one I want to see a second time.
Yeah.
Because... There's a lot of different reads to it. There's a lot of different ways.
The movie ends and you're like, that motherfucker's lying.
Yeah,
right. Something like
That's what I mean. You could read it as like a straight narrative, or you could read it like in a completely different way. And I think that's good. I think that's like something that a lot of the best movies have, is they have like different interpretations.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like The Shining.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, right. And like you're not wrong necessarily. It's
another way of looking at it.
It's just another way of looking at it, and I think it's good that like people can see what they want to see in it. You know what I mean? So it definitely...
You can look at it the simple way of what you were shown, or you can look at it the alternate way of that you were lied to.
Well, yeah, and
or you're being fooled by another man's hallucinations.
Yeah, it definitely leaves it open for the viewer.
Hallucination isn't really a good way to put it. What's a better term than hallucination? Kind of like I think you mentioned it before.
Confabulation?
No, not really a confabulation. It's where you kind of like change. You see things the way you want to see them.
Yeah, it's like selective perception.
Yeah, right. And I think that's what it is. That's why I think a lot of the movie is.
I kind of am leaning that way too. Like I said, I would like to see it a second time. Just saying, we didn't spoil anything really in this, but I would definitely.
He's delusional. That's what I meant.
Yeah,
you're seeing his delusions. I think.
Yeah,
well, I know some of it is delusion.
Well, yeah, they don't make any.
They don't make any bones about that.
Yeah,
you're just not really sure how much of this is delusion.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, I think that's what makes this really fascinating. I loved this movie. Your mileage may vary, but I feel like when it premiered at the Venice Film Festival, it got the Golden Lion, which is like the highest prize. Yeah. Got a standing ovation and everything like that. So, like I said... They
actually clapped in the theater when it was over.
I've heard that from like other people reviewing it too, that they said people like applauded at the end of it. Yeah. I mean, it was just a great...
we haven't heard people applaud in a long time. I think the last one that had applause was John Wick 3. Didn't people
I think they did, yeah.
clap a little bit at that one. But that was about the only one in the past year or so that people clapped at.
But yeah, I mean, I really loved this movie. It's like it's disturbing. It's very harrowing. Joaquin Phoenix like deserves an Oscar for this because it's his performance just like amazing, and like not just his facial expression, the way he acted, but also like the whole physicality of it.
He's got to win an Oscar.
I mean, it's like it'd be kind of sad if he didn't, because I mean he was amazing in this. But yeah, definitely go check it out. It's like no other comic book movie you've ever seen. I don't even know if I would call it that. But especially if you like old Scorsese movies, old gritty 70s movies, you will probably be all over this. But yeah, I thought it was really great. So highly recommended.